I'm Jeremy. Today's day 144 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's get started. BTW, I'm going to start thinking about doing a special thing for the followers. I don't care. Anyway, let's get started. We're on page 111. Ron mouthed wordlessly at Hermione, who opened her bag and took out her new Arthur book and propped it open against the juice jug. I think divination seems very woolly, she said, searching for her page. A lot of guesswork, if you ask me. There was nothing woolly about the grim in that cup, said Ron hotly. You didn't seem quite so confident when you were telling Harry it was a sheep, said Hermione coolly. Professor Trelawney said you didn't have the right aura. You just don't like being bad at something for a change. He had touched a nerve. Hermione slammed her Arthur book down on the table so hard that bits of meat and carrots flew everywhere. If being divination means I have to pretend to see death omens in a lump of tea leaves, I'm not sure I'll be studying it much longer. The lesson was absolute rubbish compared with my Arthur class. She snatched up her bag and stalked away. Ron frowned after her. What's she talking about? He said to Ron. She hasn't been to an Arthur class yet. Harry was pleased to get out of the castle after lunch. Yesterday's rain had cleared. The sky was a clear, pale gray, and the grass was springy and damp underfoot as they set off for the first ever Care Magical Creatures class. Ron and Hermione weren't speaking to each other. Harry walked beside them in silence as they went down the sloping lawns to Hagrid's hut on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. It was only when he spotted only two familiar backs ahead of them that he realized they must be having these lessons with Slytherins. Malfoy was talking animatedly to Crabbe and Goyle, who were quarreling. Harry was quite sure he knew what they were talking about. Hagrid was waiting for his class at the door of his hut. He stood in his moleskin overcoat, with Fangs the Boar Hound at his heels, looking impatient to start. Come on now, get a move on, he called as the class approached. Got a real treat for you today. Great lesson coming up. Everyone here? Right, follow me. For one nasty moment, Harry thought that Hagrid was going to lead them into the forest. Harry had had enough unpleasant experiences and then to last him a lifetime. However, Hagrid strolled off around the edge of the trees, and 5 minutes later, they found themselves outside a kind of paddock. There was nothing in there. Everyone gather round the fence here, he said. That's it. Make sure you can see. Now, first thing you'll want to do is open your books. How? Said the cold, drawling voice of Draco Malfoy. Said Hagrid. How do we open our books? Malfoy repeated. He took out his copy of the Monster Book of Monsters, which he had bound shut with a length of rope. Other peoples took theirs out too. Some, like Harry, had belted their books shut. Others had crammed them inside tight bags or clamped them together with binder clips. Has anyone been able to open their books? Said Hagrid, looking crestfallen. The class all shook their heads. You've got to stroke him, said Hagrid, as though this was the most obvious thing in the world. Look. He took Hermione's copy and ripped off the speller tape that bound it. The book tried to bite, but Hagrid ran a giant forefinger down its spine. The book shivered, and then fell open and lay quiet in his hand. Oh, how silly we've all been, Malfoy sneered. We should have struck them. Why didn't we guess? I thought they were funny, Hagrid said uncertainly to Hermione. Oh, tremendously funny, said Malfoy. Really, Witty, give me those books that try and rip our hands off. Shut up, Malfoy, said Harry quietly. Hagrid was looking downcast, and Harry wanted Hagrid's first lesson to be a success. Right then, said Hagrid, who seemed to have lost his thread. So you've got your books, and now you need to be careful. You need the magical creatures. Yeah, so I'll go and get him. Hang on. He strode away from them into the forest and out of sight. God, this place is going to the dogs, said Malfoy loudly. That oath teaching classes, my father will have a fit when I tell him. Shut up, Malfoy, Harry repeated. Careful, Potter, there's a Dementor behind you. Ooh, squealed Lavender Brown, pointing toward the opposite side of the paddock. Trying toward them were a dozen of the most bizarre creatures Harry had ever seen. They had the bodies, hind legs, and tails of horses, but front legs, wings, and heads of what seemed to be giant eagles with cruel, steel-colored beaks and large, brilliantly orange eyes. The talons on their front legs were half a foot long and deadly looking. Each of the beasts had a thick leather collar around its neck, where it was attached to a long chain, and the ends of all of these were held in the vast hands of Hagrid, who came jogging into the paddock behind the creatures. Gee up there! He roared, shaking the chains and urging the creatures toward the fence where the class stood. Everyone drew back slightly as Hagrid reached them and tethered the creatures to the fence. Hippogriffs, Harry and Hagrid roared happily, waving a hand at them. Beautiful, aren't they? Harry could sort of see what Hagrid meant. Once you got over the first shock of seeing something that was half horse, half bird, you started to appreciate the hippogriffs' gleaming coats, changing smoothly from feather to hair. Each of them a different color: stormy gray, bronze, pinkish roan, gleaming chestnut, and inky black. So, said Hagrid, rubbing his hands together and beaming around, if you want to come a bit nearer. No one seemed to want it to come. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, however, approached the fence cautiously. Now, first thing you gotta know about hippogriffs is they're proud, said Hagrid. Easily offended, hippogriffs are. Don't ever insult one, 'cause it might be the last thing you do. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle weren't listening. They were talking in an undertone, and Harry had a nasty feeling they were plotting how to best disrupt the lesson. You always wait for the hippogriff to make the first move, Hagrid continued. It's polite, see? You walk toward him, and you bow, and you wait. If he bows back, you're allowed to touch him. If he doesn't bow, then get away from him sharpish, 'cause those talons hurt. Right, who wants to go first? Most of the class backed farther away in answer. Even Harry, Ron, and Hermione had misgivings. The hippogriffs were tossing their furious heads and flexing their powerful wings. They didn't seem to be like being tethered like this. Know what? Said Hagrid with a pleading look. I'll do it, said Harry. There was an intake of breath from behind him, and both Lavender and Parvati whispered, Ooh, no, Harry, remember your tea leaves. Harry ignored them. He climbed over the paddock fence. Good man, Harry, roared Hagrid. Right then, let's see how you get on with Buckbeak. He untied one of the chains, pulled the gray hippogriff away from its fellows, and slipped off its leather collar. The class on the other side of the paddock seemed to be holding its breath. Malfoy's eyes were narrowed maliciously. Easy now, Harry, said Hagrid quietly. You've got eye contact. Now try not to blink. Hippogriffs don't trust you if you blink too much. Harry's eyes immediately began to water, but he didn't shut them. Buckbeak had turned his great, sharp head and was staring at Harry with one furious orange eyes. That's it, said